Up next, we have Meg Rivers, The Primordial Dream. Take it away.
All right. So my name's Meg Rivers, and I'm an author, and this talk is about my first book. This book is still in process. I have written 13 chapters. I have been writing it for 17 years, so it is a large body of research. So in college, I started out pre-med and realized pretty quickly, I took a lot of biology, I took a lot of chemistry, realized pretty quickly that that was not the right career path for me. And so in college, I ended up getting an anthropology degree. And I'd never even heard the word anthropology before I started out in that degree. I just saw it being offered as a major, and I chose that. So I really loved it. I paid a lot of attention, ended up getting a 3.9 GPA in my major in the year 2000. So I just want to start this talk by saying that I am formally educated in this topic. So soon after I graduated, I discovered something in my field, but I realized that it wasn't going to be easy to explain and it wasn't going to be quick to resolve. So I spent about the first year of those 17 strategizing, like what to do with it, writing about it, reaching out, trying to find other people who this kind of awakening discoveries were happening to. And so in 2009, that's actually what led me to Bloom that same year. And so I came to realize that what was expressing through my consciousness was part of a greater movement. And although I didn't know what to call it at the time, that movement already had a name that I can't more clearly define than regenerative culture. So a lot of those people in the early days of regenerative culture were really into plant medicine and just sort of in a sense of psychedelic inquiry. And that focus was a part of this work somewhere. But across the contingent that was becoming Bloom, there was something more uplifting and deeper, like greater than the voyaging and seeking that people sort of started out with plant medicines. So, and I feel like at the end of those journeys, there was the finding and the doing. So this talk is about action, right? And I feel like the spirit of regenerative culture was really rising up out of these nation states that we've all been organized into, already embodied in indigenous cultures, connections with plants, the natural world, and other animals that we would have had if it hadn't been trampled and really demeaned by colonial empires. And so, through a series of unlikely events, I came to understand that there was some message I have to the future around how our bodies came together and evolved in the early ocean. And the animal that kept coming to me in my life to research at first was the land slug. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Not a lot of oceans for me to check out, but there's a lot of slugs. If you're from the Midwest, you know that there's a wide variety for you to look at. So I got really interested in the land slug as a kid, knew a lot about it. Got really interested in sea slugs, nudibranchs, which has been a topic we've explored here at Bloom. And the more I researched about them, the more obsessed about their rather glorious beauty I became. And also, just it feels like there's something more about them than we understand, right? Something that you can't put into words. So, slugs can regenerate. And as it turns out, they serve almost exactly the same functions in their environment that our livers serve in our body. And I became really intrigued by these connections. And when I realized it, began to explore more fully. I'm greatly minimizing the story here for time's sake. But for example, sea hares, which is a type of sea slug, have an extra toxin gland that operates a lot like our gallbladder, looks like our gallbladder, has this gross ink that floats in water like bile. The land slug's hole or pneumostome has always reminded me of the place where the hepatic vein comes into the liver. So I started to think about this. This is an early painting of mine that was just about the idea of where did our human spirit come from, right? Like it starting to form in the ocean. You see the golden hearts there. That's actually a tunicate, which is an early chordate, which is what they believe is our earliest ancestor. So that was growing in the ocean, and my idea that started to form was was our spirit sort of forming in the water then? So I started to really explore this as an artist in the next slide. And I realized that every organ had an animal that was really similar to it. Evolved quite a bit now, but this is Marty. I started working with these deep archetypes of Adam and Eve called Linda and Martine. This is Marty's shallow mind. On the next slide, we're going to see Marty's kind heart. And these are sea animals that are compiled here. So Marty's kind heart, just a prototype here. In the next slide, we see Marty's depth. And then there they all are all together. So this is my sort of idea of putting all of these animals that really resemble our organs together in the shape of our being. So it's the idea of sort of as above, so below, right? Like how we're made in the ocean's image. And in the next slide, which I don't have much time to talk about, but that's all right. On the next slide, basically what I've come to realize in the primordial is that there is one of our organs and functionalities inside of our bodies. So the function that these animals serve in their environment is the function that our similar marine cognate organ serves inside our body. And so I've had to give them names so that I am able to talk about them in a way that makes sense. But basically, this is where my book started out 17 years ago. So if you can imagine where it's arrived at now, basically, there are seven animals that can account for all 78 organs inside our body. And my hope is that in really learning these deeper connections between these animals and our organs, that we can promote a self-interest in ocean research where people realize that our medicines and the keys to understanding our bodies are in the ocean. So if you just move to the next slide, I will finish there. There's so much more I could talk about, but these are them. These are the animals that I'm looking at. Those are the animals that I'm looking at in terms of being potentially homologous to our organ systems. And yeah, so I guess we can move into a Q&A. I made that as short as I could.